you know what a galley priest is, they're only my icons, no big deal. Anyway, I'm your host with the most, Dia, and today we're going to talk about galley priests and why they matter to my Hellenic polytheism and in my relationship with the gods. To me, the galley priests show how no matter who you are, at least identity-wise, and no matter how society treats you, you are loved and even sacred to the gods, especially with what's been happening in the US. I feel like this is a needed reminder for us all, including me. As a non-binary icon and an aspiring galley priest, I am perfect for this. I don't know if this video is going to be long, but just know it is going to be yappy because I love everything involving galley priests and in general gender non-conforming practices in ancient Greece and ancient time in general. And I'm not kidding when I say I love it. It is literally most likely my special interest, which is rare because usually I just have like small hyperfixations. But when I tell you I will suck up any information about galley priest, girl. Anyway, so yes, get ready because I'm excited in this one. Just a disclaimer. Of course, our words that we use for people nowadays are different from when they were in ancient Greece and ancient time in general. While we could call galley priests many things like gay men, gender non-conforming people, or trans women, we just don't know for sure. And also for every galley priest, it was different. So for this video, I'm just going to stick with gender non-conforming people and use they, them pronouns. Also, just know when I use queer, gender non-conforming, or other modern words for sexuality or gender identity, just know that I'm using them as a blanket word and not in a literal sense because obviously those words did not exist back then. So if you're watching this video confused and you're like, what the hell is a galley priest? Let me put you on. So basically, a galley priest or a gallus was a man who castrated themselves, wore feminine clothes, grew their hair long, wore makeup, and was a priest of Cybele. No, by man, I'm just meaning a person who has something to castrate in the first place. They seem to have started in Anatolia, where they spread to ancient Greece and Rome. And like I said, they're my personal icons. Attis, who seemed to be a Greek invention, was said to be the patron of the galley, who was a castrated shepherd. And depending on who you ask, there's different reasons for why he castrated himself. So I'm not going to get into all the stories. Just know that the balls, or even the whole thing, are gone. Also, just to know, by castration, it's kind of complicated. It could be castration of the testicles, or it could have been like a vasectomy, or it could have been like the whole thing. I think it was different from person to person and from how people describe it, but usually people use the word neutrally castration, so we're just gonna stick with that. But so I don't know. But also, this priest is less about the galley, Attis, and Cybele, and more about what they represent to me, at least. As I said in the kind of intro, the galley are important to me because they remind us that gender non-conforming and trans people have always existed, no matter how hard people try to erase our existence. I know some modern people, especially in the Hellenic polytheist space, or just really in general, honestly, try to paint Greece as a more progressive utopia. And don't get me wrong, some places in ancient Greece were more progressive than others, and even sometimes more progressive than a lot of places today. But also, definitely not. Don't get the wrong idea. Especially not in Athens. People in ancient Greece were still more or less weirded out by galley. I'm going to be referencing the article, essay, I don't know what it's called, but it will be Priest of the Goddess by Will Roscoe. Love this essay, I think. It is my Roman Empire. I love this short little text so much. It's not perfect, but it's basically everything to me. Anyway, this sums up a bit what was the general kind of Greek response to galley priests. The violation of social boundaries, especially those as fundamental to daily life as male and female, tears the very fabric of reality for those who witnessed it. As Mary Douglas might point out, the difference between pagan and Christian reactions in such cases is the difference between awe and horror when faced with an apparition that defies one's sense of reality. The Christian response is to place such events within its framework of moral dualism, with gender transgression on the side of evil. Pagans, aka the people in ancient Greece / people around that area who's referencing here, on the other hand, more often view such figures, in the words of Diodorus, as terata, a term that translated as marvels, monster, prodigy, signs, instances of the sacred breaking through to the level of the mundane. But they were still very much prejudiced, especially if you watched my last video and you saw how I talked about Rome and the Roman Senate, how they were very much not rocking with the galley priest and were very prejudiced against them, to the point of perhaps destruction. Reading the text that we have about galleys and people describing them, the narrator / whoever's the person describing the text to us, describing them, usually makes fun of the galley and describes their behavior as strange or erratic. Like in The Golden Ass, like that's what it's called. The narrator, who literally got turned into a donkey, has the nerve to be talking shit on the galley priest who bought him. But despite the disrespect, they survived on anyway. And that is what is so inspiring to me. And of course, they're important to the goddess. Actually, many deities had their own version of gender non-conforming worship, but Cybele's is probably the most notable. As Sextus Empiricus observed, the mother of the gods also admits effeminates, Thelythrias, and the goddess would not judge so, if by nature unmanliness, me on thrion, were a trivial thing. This quote is everything to me. Being a man, quote unquote, in ancient Greece who was unmanly was basically the worst mistake you can make. And in fact, the ancient Greeks themselves had so many slurs and words for being unmanly. It was kind of a while, like they had multiple. And being a man in ancient Greece was a thing to be, because being a woman, we know how that worked out for women, unfortunately, in ancient Greece. So basically, GALLI threw that away in their symbol of their manlyhood, literally, not only to worship the goddess Cybele, but also to live and dress how they want. Self-castration in these societies was a powerful statement of indifference towards the transcendental signifier of masculine status and agency, a statement repeated by every depiction of Attis with his robe flying open, and by every Hera who lifts her skirts on the streets of Bombay to this day. I also just find their religious devotion to be inspiring, because often for GALLI priests, begging and prostitution was their only way to make money. As long as the goddess survives, it would seem so do her followers, who sacrifice male gender identity to become her devotees, even if begging and prostitution are the only economic niches left to them. Gender transgression was very sacred to ancient Greek people, as it was in a lot of societies. And this is why I want to bring up the GALLI priests in this case, because, not only do we have, people throwing away their manlyhood, which, is the thing to be, the thing to have in ancient Greece, as a person that's literally all your power, and in Rome, in this case, too. And also other sources that they're mentioned here. It's more than about GALLI priests, about GALLI, Gala, and Hera in India. But we're not talking about GALLI. But they throw that away, but they also become sacred in the process. And also, like I said, they were extremely sacred. One thing is that you can make fun of them all you want, but you do not want to mess with a GALLI priest. Like I said, they were extremely sacred, and the disrespect of GALLI priests had a Roman senator dying of a random sickness, and maybe even aided in the fall of Rome. Go watch my last video if you don't know what I'm talking about. I don't even know how I mentioned that there, but just go watch it. But if you do want to know about the Roman senator thing, I will explain it again, even though I think I explained it in my last video, I don't remember. The Roman senator thing happened because a GALLI priest went to the Senate, because the temple needed to be cleansed, and the Roman Senate, were being unbelievably disrespectful to the Gallus, even trying to make them change their clothes, which were too gaudy for Roman men, I guess. And by their clothes, I mean what they wore for their priesthood, which is, as you may know, is extremely important. So the Gallus were so offended, they stopped coming out from where they were staying, and then a senator actually ended up getting randomly sick, and died within 3 days after that. After that, the other senators realized maybe not to mess with Cybele and her priest, and treated the priests with the respect they deserved. And even when the Gallus left, a crowd of Romans, men and women, walked them home. So cute. GALLI priests were extremely important to Cybele, of course. We don't really hear about other devotees or other priests of Cybele, so I don't know if, the GALLI were, the only type of priest you could be to Cybele. I'm pretty sure that's not true. But I just want to know they're the most notable to Cybele, so I think that's very cool. And also, not only that, the GALLI priests, while they were trans and gender non-conforming, a lot of them were also in queer relationships, which is not particularly unnormal for ancient Greece, or abnormal for ancient Greece, but, it's still notable to mention. They even took husbands or lovers who had seen that the goddess also protected. 46 BCE, one example, one Soterides Gallos dedicated a relief to the mother at Cyzicus after she had answered his invocation for aid on behalf of his partner, Simvio, a term that also applied to a husband or wife, a spouse, Marcus Stachys, that's my best one, who had been taken as a prisoner of war. Basically, Cybele saved this Gallus husband, whatever. I love ancient Greek. So I bring this all up to say the gods don't particularly care about gender roles or heteronormativity. And, on the other hand, certain types of gender non-conforming gender expression or identity is actually sacred to them. And I'm sure you know that, but some people need a reminder. Throughout history, gender non-conforming people have been extremely important, especially in sacred matters. From the indigenous people of the Americas to all the way to Europe, to Greek, which is in Europe, I don't know why I said that, to Asia, to Africa. And you have to think about this link. These countries are all very far apart from each other, and we're at the point where none of them were really communicating with each other, all the way from the Americas to Africa. These people had the same thing in mind, that these people who were not male or female, or maybe both, or maybe, either, maybe they switched between they are extremely important, and they recognize they're also extremely sacred and important to the gods. People who had different gender identities and different types of gender expression, they were still as important throughout these histories and cultures, and they weren't even connected. I think that's cool. And you have to think about how important that is. Well, yes, many deities have some form of gender nonconforming worship, like I said, Artemis, Hecate, Zeus, even Hera of some type. I know, wild, I never imagined that. That Cybele, Rhea, Demeter to the Greeks, chose only gender nonconforming / trans people that represent her cult. Maybe not only, but mostly. If I can't find any other, types of Cybele priests. Usually the GALLI are the most important. So Cybele, Rhea, Demeter, whatever you want to call her, she said that I'm out here to make a statement. And it is really sad that people are trying to erase the history of us. It is not that common, but I've seen enough TERFs in this space to make me want to vomit, and I legit saw a bigot-focused Hellenic polytheist server. Like, I'm not even joking. Also, I want to mention that even the gods themselves have their own form of gender nonconforming expression. I did talk about this in the video, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please watch my Apollo and Dionysus video. That kind of gets into it there. And I do want to make a video about all the gods and how their own ways. But if you want like a little taste of it, go watch that video. You see what I'm talking about. But yeah, even the gods have their own type of gender nonconforming expression. So you see how even the gods themselves in their depictions, but I do think are often divinely inspired. Which leads on to the next part of my video, onto my belief that oppressed groups of people, marginalized people, are extremely important to the gods and even sacred. And I'm not trying to say that if you're not a part of any type of marginalized group, somehow, I don't know, if you're out there, I guess, especially watching this channel, that you're not important to the gods, because we all are, obviously. But you can even see how in epithets that oppressed groups of people, to the ancient Greeks at least, are emphasized. Obviously, their version of oppressed groups of people or marginalized people is different from ours. Usually, for them, it means foreigners or women. Like, for example, deities who have of the foreigner as an epithet. Like I said, ancient Greeks didn't particularly care for people who weren't Greek, or certain Greek people, certain types of Greek people who weren't their Greek version, like, an Athenian and a Spartan. Or Aries having a protector of women epithet, or just enrolled, just in general. And I know how to explain that to you. Not only epithets, but one of my favorite stories to come out of ancient Greece was about a group of slaves in Delphi who got their freedom by writing on a wall, I think it was, that Apollo was a slave once, as a punishment for killing Python in myth. The gods love us all, of course, but a lot of us are more vulnerable than others, and that's just something you have to admit. And there would be no significance in if GALLI priests were just a standard Greek man, because obviously that was the most powerful group of people in ancient Greece. But besides Zeus, there are no other deities that have of the Greeks, because obviously in ancient Greece, Greek people were the most important people. And even Zeus just has that because he's the god of the people and the god of all gods. And he's the king of all the Greeks. I live in America, and with everything going on in the world, life is scary. But never forget that we, whatever we you might be, we're all being targeted, deserve to live, and our lives and who we are sacred to the gods. They always watch over us, and they're with us every step of the way. I know this is kind of random, but it's a lyric I really like, and it's from the new song from Macklemore. Shouts at Icon, with the songs he's making and the activism he's doing. It's literally sums up how I feel about everything going on, just in the world in general. The lyric says, "You're in the palm of God, no man will ever catch you flinching." Thank you for watching. I think in the future I definitely will make a video about GALLI priest and other gender nonconforming priests. But right now I just don't have the energy to be doing all that quoting and rereading right now. So I also hope that you learned something, and if you didn't know about GALLI priests, I'm very glad to put you on. I will put the essay, I guess it is, article, I don't know what to call it. It's not a book, it's like only like a few pages long. I'll put it in the description, and if you want any more sources on GALLI priests, please just comment down below, or whatever, I don't know, hit me up any way you can, because I will give it to you, because I have them. Trust and believe I have them. But also, it's pretty easy just to worship. It's pretty easy just to research, so just, but like I said, if you need something, I'll put you on, don't worry. Also, I do want to apologize if I sound really weird in this video, or if I'm like reading a lot or whatever. I'm actually sick, and I'm usually bad at reading in general. Shout out to having a speech impediment, but my nose is so stuffy. Like, if I sound weird, my nose is stuffy. I'm sorry. Also, like, my mouth is dry. I'm just sick in general. So if I sound weirder than usual, I'm sorry about that. Today's hymn will be to Dionysus, and it's actually one that I wrote myself. So don't make fun of me. But I wrote it a year ago. So for Aloha, man, it kind of fits. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. To Dionysus, the liberator. God of madness, both drunken and divine, we sing of you. All enjoyment we celebrate in your honors. Healer and Savior, you take us from our everyday and show us what's beyond societal expectations and shame. You free our souls. We praise you, O holy Dionysus of the Bacchic cried. Sparkling, two-horned God, you are a God most worthy. We honor you, O holy Dionysus. Fire, I know. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you're sad, scared, angry, just remember that the gods are with us every step, and that their opinion and acceptance is more important than any humans. Make sure to stay safe out there, protect yourself, remember to fight for your fellow human, build community, and love yourself and love each other. That's the only way we're going to survive right now, especially if you live in the US like I do. We're in this together, okay? I'm with you. I love y'all. We are sacred in the God's eyes and loved. Pray to them, and bye-bye.